We ready to tell our audience what we're going to get into today?
Yep, let's
All right,
go.
cool.
Microsoft unveils community first AI infrastructure commitments.
And Google Gemini officially commits to power the next gen Apple intelligence.
Must deny that I have nothing to do with this all grog underage images probe that is starting to go on now.
And we knew it would happen. Ads are coming to OpenAI ChatGPT plans, otherwise known as the Go subscription.
Google is introducing Universal Commerce Protocol for AI shopping and updates, as well as they also did VO 3.1 for high fidelity video.
And Anthropic launches Claude Cowork, which is Claude Code for everybody, and also opens a new office in Bangalore. All that and more. Stay tuned as we get into the AI files.
Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files podcast. If you're looking to stay up to date on the AI, this is the podcast for you. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm the director of AI at Microsoft, and I'm your co-host.
Hello, everybody. Jaime Shadab, as you know already. I'm the other co-host here for the AI Files. My day job is a data and AI technical specialist and architect. And as a reminder, please note this is not an official Microsoft channel, so the views and opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not represent the views of Microsoft.
Great. So I think, Jimmy, this week, let's start with the quote of the week, which is from Brad Smith. Brad Smith is one of the president at Microsoft, and he takes care of a lot of legal and the policies, etc. kind of charter. So he said this week, quoting him, Microsoft today is launching a new initiative to build what we call community-first AI infrastructure, a commitment to do this work differently than some others and do it responsibly. This commits us to the concrete steps needed to be a good neighbor in the communities where we build, own, and operate our data centers. It reflects our sense of civic responsibility as well as broad and long-term view of what it will take to run a successful AI infrastructure business. In short, we will set a high bar. Private companies can help by stepping up and acting in a responsible way. We cannot surmount the inevitable community challenges by ourselves, but we can make everything easier by embracing a long-term vision, by recognizing our responsibility, by playing a constructive role, and by supporting the entire community. Unquote. So what he is referring here, and I think this is a really good blueprint, and this is a really bold initiative that Microsoft has launched. The reason being because data centers is a major investment right now, and that's majority of the AI spend that we have been talking about. As much as 4% of the GDP is being estimated spent on the data center. So it's a big chunk. Now, it is also reflecting in our electricity bill. You know, my electricity bill has shot up at least 20-25%, right, in the last 2 years. And it's really pinching people. And one of the reasons for that is the demand of electricity from the data center. So imagine this, when the companies are making these infrastructure for the data centers, they're building those out, and when they're procuring the electricity and the energy, they obviously, because of the wholesale demand, will try to negotiate and pay less. Now, that means that somebody has to pay more, which is because of that, the residential customers are ending up paying more. The electricity prices are rising because, of course, there's a huge demand now sitting out there in terms of the data center, and that's becoming a problem. And I think that's why this initiative is really a bold initiative, and it's something that I really admire. Basically, what Microsoft has done is they've actually come up with this, I would say, kind of initiative where they are going to tell the world that there are 5 pillars of this community first AI infrastructure build out. And if you see this, it's starting with the commitment on we will pay our way to ensure our data centers don't increase your electricity prices. That's one commitment. Basically, what that means is that they're basically going to take the actual cost of the energy and not going to negotiate with the electricity companies to actually pay much lesser than the residential customers.
So, what's interesting on this one, even on that first bullet, I think this is great. I kind of equate this whole program to combat the quote unquote not in my backyard dilemma or challenges that some communities may actually, put up a fight for data centers, even though it brings, jobs, at least during the construction or build out. But this whole notion of being able to pay the full way to prevent higher residential rates, I think is great, because it shouldn't provide any extra burden on those local residents. But I don't think it went far enough, meaning that whether it's Microsoft, if it's Google, OpenAI, whoever's coming in with these data centers. Obviously, Microsoft is the first, but why stop at paying full cost? What about providing a little bit more of the quote unquote checkbook or the dollars to reduce the cost? I'm not saying make the electric bill zero for the folks that live in and around the data center, but wouldn't that be a novel idea to say, all right, we're going to build a data center, we're going to offset all the costs, but also offset some of your electric bill at the same time? I think that will make even more harmonious relationships between these big model provider companies, whether it's Microsoft or anybody else, and those local residents. So while I think this is great, I think it probably could have went just that extra mile to make it even more attractive for local municipalities or like those state areas to say, yes, let's put that new data center in my backyard.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a good sweetener as well to this whole thing. I feel that, as long as residential customers are not being penalized and have to pay additional higher rates, I'm still okay with that, because at least I'm not getting pinched.
Right.
But there are other benefits that also are coming, Jimmy. For example, they have also committed that, okay, we will minimize our water use. And water use is becoming a big thing as well. Beyond electricity, the water is also going to, and we have already seen that. Even the water bill, if you see, that is also actually rising in the cost. So this is another commitment, which is number 2 here. We will minimize our water use and replenish more of your water than we use. Number 3 is we will create jobs for your residents. So they're trying to actually create more local jobs, right? And a lot of those jobs will come in form of not just the comp science engineer or AI engineer, but basically the local, like the plumber or the construction worker, etc. So I think those are like kind of blue collar jobs that will get created locally. The 4th is that we will add to the tax base that funds the local hospitals, schools, parks, and libraries. So to your point, I think they're doing it, but in the other way, like for example, adding to the property tax, so that the more essentially, rather than seeking, many of these big companies sometimes they seek actually 0% tax and all those kind of tax breaks, right? But they are saying that we will add actually to the tax base. So and the 5th one is that we will strengthen your community by investing in local AI training and nonprofits. All in all, I think it's a great blueprint, and I think I would say there is some sort of a backlash that's kind of emerging. Maybe it's a reaction to that, but nonetheless, it's a bold leadership that Microsoft has taken.
Yeah, and again, like I mentioned, I think this is great. I'm hoping other companies actually adopt something similar and maybe even push it a little bit further. So kudos to Microsoft for this program that Brad announced.
Awesome.
So let's get into some other news. Again, like I said, there's a lot that came out. So Google is reportedly in a multi-year collaboration to work with Apple to drive the AI features inside of Apple. Now, I know we've talked about this before, and I'll call it the dilemmas and the woes of what was promised with Apple Intelligence, with their AI, and the mishaps or missteps, and just frankly, not being able to deliver over the last 18 months from what they promised. So it was reported, and I think maybe about 6 months ago, give or take, that Apple was in talks with Google for their models, and some may already know that there is some existing tie with OpenAI for some of what they did bake, but it wasn't fully baked in, or they didn't really advance it much in the way that I think everyone expected the integration to work with AI. But again, Google did announce, or with Apple, that again, this multi-year collaboration, there wasn't a price tag put to it, but most industry insiders expect the multi-year agreement to be roughly in the $1 billion range. But this will open up Google's Gemini models to Apple to do things like more personalized Siri integration, which should come in the next couple of months, maybe towards mid-year. And it comes down to, at least what Apple was saying, is that this is the most capable foundational model for what it wants to incorporate into Apple. And it thinks about the things that are really core to Apple. When you think about, like, why do most people use Apple? It's for the ease of use, but it's also for the privacy. So these models will continue to run, or the things that they provide on device, while still maintaining the privacy standards that Apple is known for. So we'll see where this comes. Like I said, it's been something that Apple has been touting for a while, but at least now that they've got a reputable company that they, kind of double down on, and we'll see what gets delivered.
And in the other news, Anthropic introduces Labs. This is a team that's going to focus on incubating experimental products at the frontier of cloud's capabilities. Now, Anthropic has done pretty good job at coming up with a lot of innovative things. For example, Cloud Code, which is one of the very, very and most important tool probably out there in terms of the coding. It's very popular. They have also come out with MCP, which was like groundbreaking and like really took off with 100 million monthly downloads, right? So they've done a lot of these kind of innovative. Now, what they're doing is they're setting up a separate lab. It's something like that. Google also has something called Google Labs where you can try the experimental products, etc. Some of these companies have these kind of things, and that's what Anthropic is also launching. One of the person who's going to lead this basically is Mike Krieger, who was Instagram co-founder. He joined as the lead of the lab, and a bunch of other product leads also will basically lead this initiative. So what you will expect is that I think they will hand out a lot more kind of preview products as part of this labs and for people to try it out. So that's what we expect to see as part of this initiative.
Sure. So as we kind of teased up front, there is a new plan coming to ChatGPT, or I should say it's expanded. So ChatGPT Go was launched in many different countries back in August, so over 6 months ago. But OpenAI is bringing ChatGPT Go into the US as well as into other countries. What's important about this is that it sits between their free tier and the ChatGPT Pro plan, which I have the Pro, which is $20 a month. The ChatGPT Go is going to increase limits, things like the number of messages, longer context window, more ability or more frequency to build images off of image one. So that is the core thing, and that's going to land at $8 per month. So again, it sits between that $0 and the 20 a month plan. But what's more interesting, and I think this will be a litmus test for some of the other quote unquote big foundational model players, that being, obviously Gemini or Google and Claude, Anthropic, is the plan for OpenAI to actually start bringing in ads into the free and Go tiers. So put it bluntly, if you're okay with getting ads, you're going to get more ability out of that $0 or $8 a month plan. So if you like ads and want a little bit more power, you'll have some options in the next couple of weeks. The Pro, the Plus, the business plan and enterprise plans will never, or I won't say never, they are not planning to include ads in that, again, because you're paying at a higher price point for those different tiers within the OpenAI or ChatGPT models. So again, you should see ads if you don't want to be paying for stuff in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we are so used to ads in so many places. I don't think people will mind, and they will say, okay, this gives me more limits, so let me go for it, particularly the free users, right? For people like us using the Plus, I think it's hard to get down and face some more stream of ads. So we'll see. But it would be interesting because this is a little bit of a path breaking. This is, I think, probably the first kind of a plan that will have the ads as part of the chatbots. And we will see if Claude and Gemini and others will follow the suit. Let's talk about Musk. Musk won up to $134 billion in an OpenAI lawsuit. It's basically against OpenAI and Microsoft. Now, basically, the premise is that, okay, as part of this conversion from the non-profit to the profit, he's claiming that he provided the seed investment and that value was lost. And because he was the early co-founder and the investor in the OpenAI, and that's what basically the lawsuit is going to be. So it will be interesting to see how this will work out and what he will gain out of it. We know that there is a kind of a vendetta between Musk and Altman, and I think it's just part of that same gimmick.
It's like when is enough money enough?
Never.
I know. So on other related news, I know that we talked a couple episodes ago about some scrutiny on what Grok, which again is which is xAI's model and their chat app, is creating images of either celebrities or people without their knowing, putting them in quote unquote compromising pictures, whether or not that's in bathing suits or others. That's if that wasn't enough, there are some reportings of some sexual based imaging of underage underage people. So Musk had come out and denies any awareness of those types of images being created or being developed on Grok itself. And that came just days or hours before the California Attorney General launched a probe into that exact piece. So again, whether or not he knew or not, I think it underscores a bigger potential issue when there's these models that can do things that do things that are not necessarily part of what we want in society. It comes down to, is it the model or is it the person that's actually pushing the buttons? So it'd be interesting to see where these probes or these lawsuits actually go. But again, Musk denies any awareness of these things actually occurring.
Another of the rapid news is OpenAI signs a deal worth $10 billion for compute from Cerebras. Cerebras is a company that has taken a little different approach compared to NVIDIA in terms of how they fabricate. Rather than the smaller chips, they have actually one large real wafer on which they actually put the entire thing. Their concept is that, okay, the interconnectivity kind of like brings the inefficiency. So rather than multiple GPUs being interconnected by the wires, etc., they want one large chip. So their chips are really, really large. There's one whole wafer on which they actually fabricate a lot of things. So that's kind of their approach, and that's what OpenAI is actually betting on as well, and they will buy some compute from them as well.
So in totally different news, Microsoft unveiled a major new wave of AI tools for the education space. They dubbed a program called Microsoft Elevate for educators, and this includes capabilities for building AI lesson plans, and that's being assisted by Microsoft 365. There's also interactive applications through Copilot Plus PCs, as well as a study and learn agent that helps students practice concepts, as well as then get personalized explanations on the things they're developing. As I mentioned, this Elevate for Educators program is really focused on the teachers and the infrastructure, quote unquote, in terms of the school systems for free AI training and credentials. So this is, again, Microsoft's way of embracing more of the education space and really just getting deeper involved in what has traditionally been a Google-led environment, especially if you have any kids in the K through 12 here in the US or abroad.
Yeah. And by the way, on that line, there is a AI presidential challenge going on, which basically has a deadline of January 20th. Quick reminder, anybody, if you are in the high school or middle school or even the elementary school, you have an opportunity to actually submit a proposal or an initiative that you have already built as part of that AI presidential challenge. There will be all kind of participation certificates. You would also get, there are some rewards and scholarship, etc., that will happen throughout the year. In the next 6 months, there will be like local championship, regional, as well as the national level recognition. So a lot of people in the education section, students particularly, have this opportunity to actually go for it. Even the educators can also actually do it. And some of these tools that you talked about, Jamie, that reminded me of that deadline coming up, January 20th. Quick another fire news, some of the people movement. Mira Murati's startup, Thinking Machines Lab, is actually losing 2 of its co-founders to OpenAI. Back to OpenAI, actually. They came from the OpenAI. One of the notable one is Zoff Barrett. He used to be actually VP of Research, and he's heading back to OpenAI. That doesn't tell very well, right, of what is going on at the Thinking Machines Lab. It seems like a unceremonious kind of an exit, and the co-founders are heading back to OpenAI. Just tells some of the troubling signs probably at Thinking Machines Lab. In another people news, Anthropic actually is opening the first office in Bangalore, India, and they have appointed one of the Microsoft managing director, Arina Ghosh, who is now starting this Bangalore office for Anthropic in India.
So let's take our focus on some launches that happened recently. So Google just announced a new protocol to facilitate commerce using AI agents. It's not like we don't have enough 3-letter acronyms, but let's dive into this next one. So this is actually called UCP, or Universal Commerce Protocol. It's an open standards that lets AI agents shop end-to-end, finding products, applying discounts, checking out, and handling that post-purchase support. And this is all inside of what we know today as the conversational AI experience. So think of what you could do inside of Google search and Gemini. This is enabling that shopping experience. So what's also important about this, obviously, it's not just for Google Gemini, but it's a protocol. So it also works with different models, things that you build as agents, and it also works against other agent standards, things like the A2A protocol or the model context protocol. So this enables, or will be able to tie in and enabling interoperability, cross-platform AI commerce. And if you think about it and take that next step, retailers can build and deploy brand-specific AI agents while users can check out. Basically, even goes before that checkout. They can determine what they're looking for, and these agents can do that shopping for them and check out without even leaving that chat interface. So if we, I think underlying on all this, we're moving to a world where these chat environments, again, whether it's Gemini Chat or ChatGPT, think of those as really the operating system. So now we're starting to weave in usefulness that's more than just that chat. And in this case, Google is really focusing or doubling down on building these commerce interlays. I might put it this way. If you think about, now, let's take a step back and why is this important? Yes, it's another 3-letter acronym of a platform structure and framework, but what does it really mean? So this goes along the lines of these AI assistants that we've known and used for the last 2 or 3 years. They're really changing into AI actors. So this is about agent autonomy and the things that can be built. So this is real world usage of being able to leverage something like we do every day, buying stuff. So this moves us from a world where we're doing co-pilots and coworkers to the idea of these agents really being, in this case, agents with wallets. So going after and being able to do things on our behalf. The other thing that I think is very apparent in this is the open protocols. So we talk about, again, we're using A2A, using MCP. There's other protocols out there as well. But how does this position Google in all of these quote unquote ecosystem wars for the platform? So to me, I step back and says, who's going to become the Amazon of agent commerce, right? I think probably a lot of people that use or listen to this podcast probably use Amazon to get their groceries or technology delivered to the doorstep. I know we do. I probably have a box being delivered at least once or twice a day. So who's going to become that Amazon of agents or agent commerce? So this is really a first step for Google saying, all right, yes, here's this protocol, and they're going to then be at the heart or the center of the things that are being built. Now, if you're using the Google platform, maybe you're going to have more alignment or allegiance to building those things within Gemini. So the other thing I think this really changes is the way that we think about where does search, where does ads, and all of these different affiliate models come in. So if AI can compare products, apply discounts automatically, and then complete that checkout, well, then this whole ecosystem that we have around search engine optimization, paid search, influencer funnels, doesn't that change? Because these agents don't necessarily care about influencers. They don't necessarily care about paid searches. They're doing it on their behalf. So this raises some questions that I think everybody within this audience should be thinking about, which is the attribution of the products. What's the monetization cycle for what will now be these agent-led purchasers, and who controls this buyer intent? Is it really me, or is it the model and the agents that are doing that for me, or is it somewhere in between? So let me take us into another topic, and this one's again still on Google. So VO3 3.1 is Google's video generation model, and I'm sure most people know that. They've integrated more capabilities into the VO 3.1. They're calling it ingredients to video. So it brings a major leap in video generation quality control, as well as a focus on these mobile first creation platforms. So the intent here is that the videos that you can create are more expressive, consistent, as well as then production ready. So there's some key updates here. The key updates really are around this, the ability for you as a creator to make more engaging clips. So this whole, one of the harder parts of doing video generation is, how do you inject what you want to convey, and doing it in a shorter window. There's only so much that these video generation tools can do. We can push the envelope and actually get to like 15 and 20 seconds, but how much action are you going to actually pick or pack into that short time frame? So the intent here is that you're able to make more dynamic videos because you're going to have greater character expressiveness or improved storytelling. So this is one of the key parts. The other thing, as you start to create, again, you're limited in terms of timing of video generation, and one of the hardest things is keeping consistency across the backgrounds and objects, let alone people. So if you have a sprawling beach scene and you've got palm trees, but you need to cut that up now across 5 or 10 or 20 different scenes, how do you ensure that you've got the same type of palm trees, the same type of background with beach chairs? And again, I'm just using an example. But if you're now able to do that with a tool set, and again, with inside VO 3.1, that retains that visual integrity, allowing the reuse of objects, textures, and environments, now you have something that looks consistent. You've got something that doesn't look like it was chopped up into various different scenes based upon the limits of what can be generated based upon the length of the output. So again, this comes back to seamless integration of all these different elements, whether it's the objects, the textures, the backgrounds, but more importantly, the characters. This provides this cohesive set of clips that really would provide high impact. Now, if all that said, if that was it, that would be pretty cool. But there's also more that Google packed into the VO 3.1 release or ingredients, and that is a focus on native vertical video generation, the 9:16. So if you think about most people consume their video content where? Well, they do it on their cell phones, right? So those are going to be in a portrait video mode generation, and that's obviously ideal for YouTube Shorts and other mobile platforms that are based upon that view. Now, all that being said, you want high definition out of that. So there's embedded state-of-the-art upscaling for producing videos that are sharp, clean, and obviously have high resolution. So there's the ability to not only do the 1080, but also do 4K upscaling, and that's part of the professional workflows. So where can you use this? It's going to be available for both consumers / creators as well as the professionals and the enterprise. So doing things like YouTube Shorts, the Create app, obviously it's going to be within the Gemini application. If you're a professional, you're probably going to be using things like something like Flow or Vertex AI to actually integrate all those different things. One last piece with what was introduced here is the transparency with Synth IDs. So Google is now allowing, or the app now lets users verify whether or not a video was generated by Google AI by including the Synth ID. So it's imperceptible. So if you're just looking at a video, you're not going to know that there's Synth ID watermarks, but it's there. So if you want to know whether or not something is real or not, because again, the better these models and tools get at building videos, it opens up for, is this a deep fake? Is it real or not? So there will be things within the video that allow for the identification if it is AI generated.
Okay, and in one of the last news of the week, Claude launches Cowork. Cowork is a new feature built on Claude Code Foundation, and it is designed for non-coding tasks with higher autonomy. It lets users get Claude access to a local folder to read, edit, and create files, and supports connectors and browser integrations for extended capabilities. As the name suggests, Cowork, basically you use it kind of in a co-pilot mode on when you're working with the Claude Code, and you can do some of the non-coding tasks using the Claude Cowork. That's the purpose of it. It's a research preview for Claude Max subscribers via Mac OS app only at this point of time, so not broadly available. There are controls and safety. For example, users have to choose the folders and the connectors that it can work through, and Claude will ask before major actions. There are, of course, some risk, for example, prompt injection risk and things like that. So you got to be careful. It's a powerful feature. But that's what is basically the Claude Cowork is. It's currently for Claude Max subscriber, and others can join the waitlist for the future access. With that, I think we're ready to wrap the week.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks everybody for listening again, and until next time.
Bye everyone. Bye, Jimmy.